Hello friends, I am Abhishek Singh. I work as the Vice President Academics and Operations at Clat Possible. Now today we'd be analyzing the GK section of Ailet 2017. Now the GK section, to begin with, my friends, we can classify the section as somewhere between moderate to difficult, and I guess nobody can obviously say that the section was an easy section, because yes, there were a lot of bouncer questions. Now one important reason why we are conducting this Ailet analysis at this point in time is because over the past few years, every time the people have written their Ailet examination and they've come back to the center, they have simply been blown off. So it serves like a bouncer. So like over if the batsman gets a bouncer, then he's prepared for the rest of the ball. So we're only here to prepare you for the Clat paper, my friends, which is the ultimate test for which you've been preparing for the past 1 year. Now the GK section, my friends, to say the least, was definitely not an easy section, as I've already reiterated. It was offbeat, it was unorthodox, it was unconventional, and the major change in the GK section of the Ailet paper from the previous few papers that we have observed here at Clat Possible is that the focus on static shifted. The focus on current shifted, and majority of the questions which used to be from current affairs now had a very good or a very sizable bifurcation between static and current GK. So in fact, we had around 20 questions on current and we had 50 questions on static GK. Now the current GK sections, my friends, were divided into different sections. So we had some of these questions on international events, some of these questions on sports, some of these questions on awards, some of these questions on international days, science and technology, and obviously some questions on geography, economics, finance, and business. In the static section as well, my friends, as I said, the classification of questions could have been done in different sections such as science and technology, economic, business and finance, environment, geography, science and technology I've already mentioned. Now one striking part in the GK section this year, my friends, was that history was missing from both current affairs and the static section. So there was no question on history in the entire entire GK section of the paper. Stop it for a second. So there was no history question in the entire paper, which is again not to say it was disheartening, but yes, people prepare a lot, and when it comes to history, I remember, I have students who come to me and they learn dates and they learn about dynasties and they learn the timelines and so on and so forth, but obviously no question in the paper. Now coming to the current questions, my friends, so from international events, we had quite a few questions, like the country which opted out of the Commonwealth of late, then the largest refugee camp. Now all these are current contemporary topics, and I'm sure the best part about this section was that you can say it was a very cool GK section. So not very traditional questions, but questions which were a little offbeat, questions which were actually cool. So if you've been following the crisis in Syria, if you've been reading the newspapers, obviously you would come to know the answer behind the question. Then you had questions on who was, Navjit Sarma was appointed as the ambassador to which country recently. Then Ross Intelligence Ross the artificial robot, Ross the robot lawyer. Now the strange part about the paper, my friends, was that even these offbeat topics, now obviously not a lot of people have come across Ross the robotic lawyer, which is being used by some of these firms in the United States to help them with their legal and paralegal work. Now what was strange, my friends, was that a lot of people don't come across such news articles. So did a lot of you come across the Ross the robotic lawyer and artificial intelligence? No. Then even when you decide to make a question on that, the few people who have come across Ross and they know that it's a robot lawyer and it's gotten something to do with artificial intelligence, the question that was asked was as if the page for Ross was clicked, the Wikipedia page, and somewhere in between the page they come across something not very apparent and obvious and decide to make a question out of it, which was that which firm obviously engaged Ross as a lawyer. Now the question was the first firm. Okay, so there have been now a lot of firms which have engaged Ross as an artificial lawyer, but the question was about the first firm which was the one to do so. Now after that, my friends, we had current questions from sports. Now sports obviously had very simple questions. Again, if you've been following the sports section of the Hindu, which is what we ask you to refer, or in fact if you've followed the GK Genius, which was circulated and published by Team Satyam Publications, then you would have found the answers to all these questions. The questions were simple. The mascot of FIFA, which is about to be held. Then India won how many medals in this special Winter Olympics which was held of late. Then we had a question which was not really concerning sports, but again brand endorsement. So PV Sindhu and Shrikant, both of them are sportsmen. Which bank or which brand of banks have they started endorsing? That was the question that was asked in the paper. Now coming to science and technology, my friends, the most startling part of the paper was that there were many questions on science and technology. Now, I mean, essentially speaking, doesn't really make a lot of sense to question Clat and law aspirants or legal aspirants on science and technology, and that too not just one or two questions. In fact, there were more than 11 questions on science and technology, my friends. That's a lot. Out of 35 questions, you decide to have around 10 to 11 questions. It's as if, you know, some science student is writing this paper. I mean, somebody who's preparing for engineering or for that matter for medical entrances. So the questions range from static science developments to obviously current science developments. Some of the questions that had come in the paper, my friends, was the latest satellite communication which was launched from which city in India by ISRO. Then there was a question that recently DNA of 3 people was combined to come up with a live cell, and what country was it to obviously do this. Then we had another question which was water should be made free of the bacteria E. coli. Now which Indian organization is working on this idea? Then we had another question which was the lightest material which has been developed by ISRO of late, and there were 4 options and you had to obviously pick. Now if you go through the answer key, the GK section is not a section which is full of ambiguity or which is full of dubiousness. There are straightforward answers. Either you get them correct or you don't get them correct. The best part about the Ailet paper as such is that there is no negative marking. So even if you were on a wild goose chase and you were beating your head against the desk looking at the GK section, I think, you know, once you have seen the answer key, maybe some of those fluke options that you marked just worked for you. So a lot of questions on science and technology, as I said. So these were the current questions. Then we had some current questions on geography as well, which was world's largest marine protected area, what site has been declared as the world's largest marine protected area. Then dead zone has been discovered of late in which country. Then obviously you had some questions on environment as well, which of the following 4 animals is nocturnal in nature, which is obviously the animal is up during the night and is asleep during the day. Now again, one very important part from which questions, and a lot of questions did come, my friends, was business and finance and, you know, general economics as such. So in fact, very strange questions, very offbeat. I'm using the word again and again, but I'm just compelled to use it because myself, when I did come across these questions, I felt that okay, this was something which would have easily passed off anybody's eye had he been preparing for the GK section. So we had questions on banks, which was software robotics has been developed by which bank in India of late. Then we had the travel insurance amount, which has been made compulsory. Now even if you knew about this, maybe you knew that it has been made compulsory, but then to ask that what exactly is the amount which has been set for it was a hard nut to crack nonetheless. And then LPG subsidy has been brought down. Now certain easy questions as well, like which banking conglomerate took over Wells Fargo in the US. And then you had a question which was again the limit of flexible funds between the center and states has been divided as 25-30%, 35-40%, and you had different options. Then you had the question on why exactly or what exactly is the motive behind the deliberate devaluation of currency from the government of India, and again you had 4 options, the answer to which obviously are, as I said, not disputed, very correct, as has been released by the NLU Delhi answer key. Coming to the static section, my friends, again science and technology played a very important role here. So there were questions, daily life questions, like I'm sure if you've had food items. Of if you drunk something, you find those silica gel packets or pouches. Now one question was based on that what exactly is the use of this silica gel pouch. Then there were questions like what is the Beaufort scale supposed to measure. Then there was one question on optical illusions where there were 4 phenomena which were mentioned in the options, and you had to pick which one of them is an optical illusion. Then again there was one question which was again very technical, the technology which is used behind Wi-Fi and Li-Fi. Again, as I said, a very difficult very hard nut to crack. Then elements used for the thinnest bulb which was manufactured. Again, you can divide this into either current science and technology development or something that has been obviously discovered a long time ago, but since it wasn't, obviously I'm including it in the current science and technology section. Then economics and business, again my friends, not just the current part but the static aspect of it was questioned very vividly as well. So there was this one question where we have had 3 women governors for the Reserve Bank of India, and you had to pick the one which was not one of them. Then there was a question which had different brands owned by the conglomerate Yum Foods, which is again a conglomerate which is a business division of PepsiCo. Now there were options like Taco Bell's and KFC, and I'm sure while you were having your burgers and enjoying them at KFC, you never really gave a damn about whether or not it's a part of Yum Foods, but then yes, it did turn out to be a question in the Ailet paper, my friends. And then the Likekang index, what exactly is it supposed to measure? Which of the following is a component? HDI, Human Development Index, who was the person behind it? These were some very easy, I guess, questions, not so difficult as compared to obviously the other questions in the economics and finance section. Then my friends, on geography there were certain questions which is what exactly is the position of Earth? What is the term when the position of the Earth is furthest from the Sun and which causes summer in the southern hemisphere? So again there were 4 terms given and you had to pick one of them. There were few current questions, or in fact just 2 current questions on awards and days. So one of them was again not directly related to awards, because what they basically asked was that who won the Nobel Prize. In fact they named who won the Nobel Prize for economics, but they asked the area of work for which obviously the Nobel Prize was won. And then lastly my friends, International Happiness Day is celebrated on what day and which country of late, and this obviously was in the news a few months ago. And again, as I said my friends, most of these questions on current and static, you could have easily come across these questions in the GK Genius book which we had distributed. Apart from that, the compendiums also contain most of the questions, but then all said, I would have to agree that this section was not easy. It was a difficult section. The questions were very different and unorthodox, and usually you don't come across these questions. Even if you have come across some of these aspects, then they were dug deep and very very minute points from these aspects have been picked up to frame questions. So yes, difficult section. An easy, I think a score of around 23 to 22 would be something that would fetch you a seat at the NLU Delhi if obviously you do well in all the other sections. But then 22 or 21 for that matter was a gettable score, and if you scored well in all the other sections, a 22-23 should obviously land you at the National Law University Delhi. Likewise, we've already mentioned my friends that a lot of different forums have been speculating that the cutoff for the Ailet examination will come down to a meager 90, or some have even gone on to say they'll come down to 88 and 87, some have said 94. But we at Clat Possible differ from this opinion, my friends, because approximately 15 to 20,000 people have written this examination. Out of these 20,000 people, there will be at least 50 people, 50-55 general seats that are available. There will be at least 50-55 people who would obviously cross the century barrier and score more than 100. So please don't have high hopes that okay, the cutoff is coming to 88 or 87 and therefore if I'm hitting somewhere around 88 I might stand a very good chance, because that is very unlikely to happen. We feel even if the second list closes down, I don't think the marks will go beyond 98 or for that matter 97. That is where it should come to an end. This was a quick analysis of the GK section, my friends. This was only to help you prepare well for the Clat section. For the Clat GK section, the message from the Clat Possible team is that please go through, if you have subscribed your copy of the GK Genius, if you've downloaded the compendiums, if not, wherever you are, whatever part of the country you are, if there's some book that you've stuck to, then just go through the pages. Make sure that you have a good command over the past current events that have occurred over the past 1 year. Please don't take any section lightly. So if anybody afforded or thought that I can afford taking the science and technology section lightly, obviously had to pay the price in the Ailet paper. So balanced approach for the next 2 days. Flip through the pages, go through the current events, and all the best for the Clat, my friends. Thank you so much.